wanted to touch on today the issue of transitioning from plank to downward dog. So what I see a lot of times when I'm teaching classes is that people move their hands or their feet as they're going up into downward dog, transitioning and feeling maybe like they can't get into their downward dog, or maybe they can't get their hips high enough or something, so they have to bring their feet in, or they have to walk their hands in closer to their feet. So in fact, it is beneficial for you to keep your hands and feet the same. For one, it allows the transition to be smoother, and two is just that we actually get to, if you play around with certain alignment issues in your downward dog with your feet and hands in position, then you'll be able to play around a little bit with where your true range of motion is and really get into some of the areas that might be tight, instead of just compensating and moving your hands and feet to where you think it might feel better or where it might look better. So your hips might not be able to go up as high. It may not look like this perfect, picturesque downward dog, but in fact you're actually doing a little bit more work in a better way for your body. So when we come into our plank position, talking about that first, you want to make sure that your shoulders are stacked over your wrists, fingertips spread nice and wide, and then coming out onto your toes. So in your plank here, you want to push the floor away from you and make sure those shoulder blades are wide. So this would be collapsing in. So you want to push them wide and then have a little bit of external rotation happening in the shoulder. So you're going to turn your elbow pits forward, and you have this wrapping around sensation in the outer armpit, and this upper arm bone turns forward. We're pushing the floor away, and you'll get this really strong sensation in the shoulders. So from here, without moving anything and keeping that strong sensation you found in your shoulders, you're going to slowly push the floor away, lift the hips up, start bending the knees, and then bring yourself back just enough until you still feel that strong sensation in the shoulders. You're not collapsing or losing that sensation. And so it's not so much about getting the heels to the floor. If you can, that's fine, but I like to actually keep a soft bend in the knees, keep the ribs drawing in, and keep that strong shoulder sensation as you reach the tailbone up. And then if you play around in a flow class, you're transitioning plank to down dog and back and forth. And it becomes this really strong flow, really great for the shoulders and the core. So what I see many times in a class is this, and then people come up and they walk their feet in. And maybe it's because they feel they have to get their hips up and their hamstrings feel tight, or it's coming from the upper back and the shoulders. So maybe they come here and then they move their hips back and then they bring their hands in like this, and then they come back into their plank, and it's a lot of moving around. So depending on where the tightness is coming from, a few things that you can do the main thing that you can do is to bend the knees more. So don't think heels down to the floor. Keep your knees bent, reach the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Maintain that strong wrapping around sensation in the shoulders, pushing the floor away. And what that looks like in your body might not be this lovely perfect triangle, heels are not on the floor, but you're in better alignment overall, which is better in the long run. So for somebody who's tight, as they're lifting up and back, and maybe they can only go here, then bend the knees a little bit more, reach the hips back, and something like that. And then eventually, maybe they'll be able to take their heels down a little bit more. But the heel is not the issue. It's finding length through the spine, keeping the shoulders stable, keeping the ribs in. Not letting the tailbone tuck under. So releasing that tailbone and soften the knees, and you'll get a much better spinal lengthening, which in my opinion, and shoulder strengthening, so more so than hamstring stretching. So it really, it comes down to why you're doing the exercise in the first place. I feel like hamstring stretching can be done better and more effectively in other poses. This one is a nice flow transition, so keeping the hands and feet in place is really helpful to keep that flow going. So that's your little tip for today. If you have wrist issues, I just want to pop in one more quick thing that you can do this with blocks too. This is a lovely option as well. So just having your hands on blocks, same cues, strong shoulders, pushing the hips back. Sometimes this can feel a nice extra stretch in those shoulders if this tightness is coming from across here. Hands on blocks is a lovely alternative as well. All right, have a great day.